Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of How Did This Get Booked? I, of course, am your host, Jake Manning, and of course I am joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, tag team partner, best friend, Zane Riley. Zane, how are you doing?
I'm great, Jake. How are you?
I'm very good. It's
fantastic.
Very, very pleasant. A lot of pleasantries today.
Really nice. It's positive. We're early.
Yes.
It's a couple hours earlier than we normally would.
Yes. It's cloudy outside, but it's sunny inside of my living room right now.
Here. And I got to leave work early for this, so that's even better.
Fantastic. But as always, we are joined by a non-wrestling fan, and I'm very excited about this one. We're sitting here with a very funny comedian and host of one of the best open mics in the entire Charlotte area, Andy Perez. Andy, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's very exciting to be here.
All right. Well, as we always start, we always ask our non-wrestling fan, what is kind of your background to professional wrestling? What is your overall exposure to it? When have you seen it? When's the first time? Just like, what do you know about it?
Well, back when I was elementary school years, I guess 97 through 99, just all the kids loved wrestling, and that's basically...
You're making me feel old, all right?
I know, I'm such a young and I always forget that, but yeah. We didn't really understand the storylines or anything. Basically, we knew two names. We knew The Rock and we knew Stone Cold Steve Austin. Mm-hmm. And then we would talk about it, and then after school, we'd go to the trampoline and practice what we saw on whatever moves we saw. How many times I flew off a trampoline trying to do the people's elbow, I don't know. But it was just all fun and kids and games, and I guess after a time, that hit, is it not real? So I guess that kind of scared some people off. Some people got scared off. I kind of got scared off by it, but it's still great entertainment value.
Scared off, like, ooh, it's not real. I'm more terrified that guys are doing this in fake simulated action as opposed to this being a real contest where, like, yeah, that's okay. I'm more scared that people okay this, you know?
Now this is just gay.
Yeah, not as cool. But yeah, that's really interesting that you talk about that you watched it in elementary school. Like, you're probably of that generation that I refer to a lot as the younger brother generation. Like, I was perfect for the Attitude Era and that whole era of Stone Cold and The Rock because I was like 16, you know, like I'm old enough to drive. My parents were like, okay, you can kind of watch adult stuff, you know what I'm saying? There's, you know, girls kissing, there's people hitting each other with trash cans, they're bleeding, they're doing all kinds of stuff. Where kids like your age, like, they're like, no, you guys can't watch wrestling at all. You're barred from wrestling completely. And I feel like that's where a lot of kids just missed out because they weren't allowed to watch it for that period of time. And then it's almost like nuclear waste. You know, for a while, like, kids weren't allowed to watch professional wrestling until it went PG again.
Yeah, my parents just weren't really monitoring anything that I was watching, so I pretty much just watched whatever I wanted to. Mm-hmm. So that I remember, like, I guess the only thing that I really were deep down on was South Park. I couldn't watch South Park, but after, like, season 1, season 2, they come and watching, oh, he's gonna watch it. I stop him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the same thing, I guess, with the wrestling. They didn't even see it as too violent, I suppose. They were very liberal in that area. They knew that I was smart enough that I wasn't gonna try to do that randomly in classmates. So they didn't really mind the violence. I guess.
But the cartoons, we got to cut those off.
Oh, that's South Park.
Yeah, my parents wouldn't let me watch...
What words are they saying?
My parents wouldn't let me watch The Simpsons for a while. So it makes me feel even older now. But anyways, you know, the show that we are reviewing today, of course, is the ECW Classic, December to Dismember. A little bit of facts about the show. It took place in December 3rd of 2006, which is actually the day right before my first ever extra talent spot for WWE. A little piece of information about my life. It took place at the James Brown Arena in Augusta, Georgia. Attendance was 4,800 people. The buy rate was about 90,000 people worldwide, 55,000 domestically, which made it the lowest buy rate in the history of the WWE until the inception of the network. And just to kind of give you an idea of like how poorly it performed, the next lowest buy rate of 2006 was No Mercy, and it was 197 buys. So they did another 100 buys better would be the next lowest. And of course, to give you an idea how high buy rates were in 06, WrestleMania did 975 buys. And then, of course, the WrestleMania the next year, which was only a few months away from December, they did about 1,250. So for them to do only 90 just kind of gives you an idea how low this pay-per-view underperformed. I think a lot of people cite the fact that there was only 2 matches advertised, being the Hardys match between Eminem and, of course, the Elimination Chamber in the end were the only 2 matches they actually advertised. And actually, the Hardy match, I remember, I think was only advertised like a couple weeks out. So really, they'd been pushing this pay-per-view for a month or however long with just 1 match. And I think at this moment in time, like, pay-per-views were like $30 still. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like hey, we're going to discount it. Like, no, they were still the same rate as all the other ones. So this is expensive buy, and you only know 1 match.
Well, let me, at that time in 2006, when you're advertising the first match, how big was Eminem and Hardy Boys where they could say, like, oh, I would need to see this match. I really like these. Like, how popular were they in that?
No, I think that was something that was brought up, that they put this match on there because they weren't really ECW guys. There was a lot of people saying that they put this match on here just because, we need somebody to care about this pay-per-view. We need something big, so we'll just throw them on there real fast, A
big steel cage with barbed wire baseball bats isn't enough. Let's just throw more on.
Throw these 4 guys on and let them go for fucking ever.
Oh, wait.
Man.
But you look at it, kind of like... I could have watched that a little bit longer than some of the other ones.
In hindsight,
yes.
It was a good call. It was almost longer than the main event.
Yes. Yeah. But,
by like a minute short.
Yes. As we see. Of course, also, too, so Andy, this is the WWE's version of the ECW brand. I think the only way to kind of really give you some history, I know you did a little bit of research. Yeah. Andy probably being our most well-prepared guest we have ever had on this podcast. He told me, he's like, hey, I watched it once. I'm going to rewatch it. I've got some more notes. He showed up 15 minutes early. Like, he is spoiling us as far as guests go. But
I am so going to let you down.
He's prepared. We don't know if it's funny yet.
I just got information. That's all.
He's got information for sure. But let me give you a piece of information about ECW. It was a small Philadelphia-based company based with a lot of guys that were kind of like, basically it was Island of Misfit Toys. A lot of guys that were cast-offs from WCW, guys in WWF. And this was in the early 90s, the grunge era and stuff like that. And they did a lot of things that end up on WWF. People going through tables, people, getting blood and getting juice, as they say. Really aggressive style of wrestling. Lots of high spots, luchadors, real life promos. This was like something like very cutting that you can believe and stuff, like a very realistic, version of professional wrestling when everything else was very cartoony. It came up in the early 90s, and they even used a lot of like early 90s music when they weren't legally supposed to. And they had a really great television program, and it was like a cult phenomenon. But their biggest shows, they were drawing 1,000 people. But they were, critical darlings. The internet was very new. People loved them on the internet. And, of course, because of certain dealings, it fell apart. And it went away, and people were pretty upset about that. But then WWE absorbed some of these wrestlers. And then, of course, they did, one-off shows where they brought some of those guys back. They were highly, well-reviewed. So the idea was, let's just launch a rebrand and, bring some of these guys in. Now, the only problem with that is that's basically what you're doing is taking a big corporate thing. It's almost like a corporate thing going, I see what these kids are doing. We can do that too. So it's almost like the Sex Pistols, being brought in to play a concert at Buckingham Palace. It's probably the best way to explain this. Or like a TV, like an ABC TV exec going, I like this Dave Attell guy. I like what he's got going on. Let's create somebody similar to him. You know what I'm saying? Like that's or Doug Stanhope. Like, this Doug Stanhope guy's doing something. Let's do something similar to that. Yeah,
the story of Lewis Black flying out to Los Angeles to do a interview to play a version of himself on a TV show.
Yeah, it's just very, very much like that. And they try their best to recopy it, most notably by using the Drowning Pool song "Bodies Hit the Floor," and that's the theme song of ECW, song that was actually used in 2001 for WWE, but they just play
all
the crap.
Angry white boy music. They just pumps our veins.
Get them going.
Play the crap out of it in 2006, that's for sure, especially for this show. But Anyways, it gives you a little bit of history of kind of what we got going on in the set of circumstances, and I'm sure that
I'm just trying to absorb all of it.
That theme of WWE not really understanding what ECW is, I'm sure will be coming up multiple times in this discussion. But let's start with match number 1. As we discussed before, Eminem versus the Hardy Boys. Andy, what are your thoughts on the introductions, the intro and entrances of Eminem?
Melina. The whole match, I just think it's unfair. Like, I saw it as a 3 versus 2 match because you have to take in counter of what she's doing in there. She's doing as much distraction and influencing the fight as being part of the fight.
A lot of screaming.
That holler yell.
I was screeching.
I actually had to take my headphones off and just wait for her to finish this.
Shut up.
I'll probably get back to my favorite Melina moment later. I don't want to spoil the part that had me rolling on the floor, but those outfits, what were going? I know the loud street and the pageantry. Are those some of the wildest outfits you guys, or what's the wildest outfits you've got? I don't want to get too off topic,
I think you're pretty close. Fur coats with then the scrolling LED light text across. That is pretty ridiculous. Even in our field, yes.
Yeah, and then wasn't there a moment where they were they're promotional, they're trying to pump up the audience, and they're both of them simultaneously air humping? It's who's that? The crowd full of sea of white men. What is that supposed to do for them?
Make them irate, I guess.
Just cock gyrations for everybody.
Are you ready, baby?
And of course, the Hardy Boys coming out. Very fan favorites, Mid-Atlantic region. Georgia's still kind of very close to North Carolina.
North Carolina's own.
Yes. Actually, I was part of the reason, as I was telling Andy off camera, I was actually at this event. Personally, I went down with Thomas Simpson, a good friend of me and Zane's. He got tickets through the Hardy Boys.
Of course.
So I basically got to see the show live. And actually, there was one point in time, I don't think it was during this match, but I'll probably put a screen cap of it on the website. You actually see a screen cap of me sitting in the audience.
So you got to hear Melinda scream live.
I was on that corner. All right, that same side. So there's actually a screen cap. I'll put that up and stuff like that. But I was there live, and I looked just as entertained as I was rewatching it now. But anyways, and also too, to keep it in mind, this is the last pay-per-view we see Joey Matthews' face intact, because a few weeks later he wrestles him in a ladder match, and his face basically gets destroyed by a ladder.
Fun times.
Little seesaw action, and he eats the fucking foot of the ladder, and his face explodes.
Yes.
And how was your Sunday?
Pretty shitty.
But also too, what were your thoughts about the whole match, Andy, as you're watching it?
The one I noticed this about every single match, but the audience already knows who they're rooting for. I really in any of the matches ever really saw a guy win over the audience. Usually the audience is already there. They already know who they're rooting for. They already decided we love them, we hate them, so we're just gonna throw all our energy on them.
Which makes it very easy performer. You know what I'm saying? You have to win people over. It's not like a stand-up set. You're like, hey, I'm not an asshole. You can actually laugh at this racist joke. I'm doing satire.
Oh, the life of a comic is sad.
But no, immediately with all the hard work, they just pump it out there. So, anyways, like I said, it goes.
I wish I could comment more on the moves. You probably
everything.
Saw.
No, everything. Throw it at it.
I wish there's so many moves. I don't know what that's called, but I'm gonna have so much trouble. That move where you flip them over, just slam them on the camera. I wish I knew the technical moves where I could throw that in there too. But I noticed that the Hardys started off really, really strong in that match.
Were you a fan of the Hardys after watching them?
I like their haircuts. I was for a guy that doesn't understand the wrestling, I'm like, what else can I notice? Oh yeah, I like that guy has kind of weird dreadlocky hair. They seem more they were ready to fight, where the other guys are just oh yeah, we have this beautiful vixen in the corner that's just going to influence the match once in a while.
Well, you just said you got a favorite spot of Melina's during this. We'll bring that up.
I am a man. Heterosexual man. And there's just some beauty you can't look away from. Have you ever met her? Or I know you're kind of in that world.
No, I've probably shaken her hands a couple of times, and just in passing a little bit. Actually, I saw Nitro like a month or two ago. Had a nice conversation. Turns out he's an Eagle Scout as well. Glad he didn't decide not to rip off the Man Scout Manning character. He would could. If anyone could, it's him, and he could do far more flips than me. So I would have been screwed.
Not Brian Myers though.
Anyways, Andy, more about Melina. You said there was a particular spot in the match. Let's bring it up.
I don't guess. As Melina does, she likes to interrupt what everyone else is doing. Mm-hmm. I guess she's which one was it? Joey Mercury was down, and then I forget. I'm trying to go back. Matt Ward Jeff was about to bump out the road, do something. Melina grabs him. Mm-hmm. They kind of start a conversation. I guess one of the M&M who was on the ground decided, oh, this is a good time. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do something when Melina's distracting. Last second, one of the Hardy Boys steps out of the way, and a perfect face kick to Melina. I was like, I did not see that coming whatsoever. That's the Patrick. That was absolutely awesome. I was rolling laughing at that because normally, because we'll probably later talk about the mixed tag team match, they don't want the men facing the women because there's obviously a disadvantage. The men are so much stronger. But to actually see, I guess it works if. Well, I guess they're teammates by accident, but that was great entertainment.
Oh, her
value.
fall off the apron, and that's the thing too is me dating a woman who's been a female wrestler for a long time, and of course during this time of professional wrestling, women were not as gracefully treated and stuff like that as far as seen as equals and physical equals. It was a lot of times girls were just valets. You would get models, you would get girls that didn't really know a whole lot about wrestling, or girls that did know a whole lot about wrestling, and you're like, nah, just wear heels down in the ring and look nice. And of course Melina's taking this bump in heels.
Yes.
And lands kind of on her heels
on
as well.
Themselves.
And taking a bump, you're only got a pad that's about as thick as a wrestling mat, and you're basically falling 4 feet, 6, about 4 feet off the ring apron. So for her to take a bump like that, so.
And after she fell over, I just love how Eminem was they looked at her, was well, I have to continue. They basically just ignored her. She's just on the ground holding her nose.
Well, that's the thing too. It should have been the finish right away, and then it goes on even longer and stuff like that. But at the same time too, when you know what the rest of the card is, I don't think you get mad at the Hardys and put it in time.
Just keep going, bro.
Just keep going.
Just keep going.
Because this match plus the intro song, I clocked it. We're almost at a half an hour of a show that runs 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's a fourth of the show happens just in this one match.
And as we find out later, good. Good.
Oh, but anything more we need to explore about this match? I mean, I think it's a great match. I like it.
It was a fine match. My favorite part of the match was the diving sequence.
Yeah.
In which Joey Mercury's out, and then Matt Hardy comes and does his dive at the house show. But Joey doesn't catch him for fuck all. He grabs him and then just kind of lays him down on the ground and then falls on top of him.
To Joe's fairness, but also to I have a note about Matt's dive. I go, oh, Matt dives like me. So it's nice to know that gravity affects Matt Hardy in the same way that it affects me. Not very well, because anytime I do that dive, I too fall to the ground at the speed of light. I would challenge anybody to prove to me that I fall like a normal human being when I do that dive. And obviously Matt Hardy's the same problem.
Yeah. But then it follows up with Nitros, who is basically the same, where only Matt catches him because Joey Mercury's not there. And then Jeff's dive, who again, only Matt catches him. Mm-hmm. Best dive spot ever because no one wanted to save anybody's life.
Mm-hmm. As wrestling should be.
As it should be.
And foreshadowing probably Joey Mercury's face getting destroyed a few months later.
This was a hit.
Yes. And
I believe the M&M sandwich that was off the high bar, I thought that was really...
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that in wrestling. It was just pile everyone on top of each other and just jump on them.
I'm telling you, it's very, typical A material of the Hardy Boys. I've seen them put matches together. They're very similar to this. They have their stuff. This is them kind of, I'd say in their prime as far as workers and stuff like that. They've gotten now enough knowledge, and they still have enough of the athletic gifts that they had as young men that everything's kind of melded together. So it's a nice, good mix. So excellent match. Love it. Great. Could have gone on longer.
Should have.
Yeah, Wikipedia clocks at 22 minutes and 33 seconds.
Yes.
I don't know why someone just decided to time every single match, but thank God for the nerds on Wikipedia.
But that's just bell to bell. You think about the entrances, and then you add in the video packages and everything like that. Like, it's about a half an hour before we see anything else. Which the next thing we see is a promo by Rob Van Dam. Really pulls you in with his vocal stylings. I don't know if you know this or not, Andy, but Rob Van Dam does comedy now.
What?
And after seeing this promo, do you feel like this is a guy that you would love to see talk for an hour?
No.
Keep in mind, he's super fucking high the whole time.
As if he wasn't.
But does he use that voice for his comedy voice? Because he got comedians like Larry the Cable Guy. They have their real voices, but I can't understand Larry the Cable Guy 5 seconds into a joke. You don't get her done. I would see him once. I would definitely would see just as if I could say I saw him. I would do my honest critique of him. You gotta see everything. I'm more than just. I can't say no. I would love to see him once, just to see what it's all about. I emceed for Steve-O for Jackass, and of course, you don't think Steve-O from Jackass is a stand-up comedian, but at the same time, it's something you have to watch at least once.
Well, anyways, moving on to match number 2, we have Matt Striker taking on Balls Mahoney.
Yes.
Funny story about Matt Striker.
He's weird as fuck.
But I love him.
Absolute tool.
Love him. He wearing unique tights, which I'm sure Andy will get into here in a little bit. But let me tell you, give a little backstory about him. I was passing through Deep South with the owner of High Spots, and we were trying to sell knee pads and some gear. We had some stuff out for those guys, and Matt Striker's like, "Oh, you got trunks?" And I go, "Yeah," but I was like, but I don't have a good selection. Mostly what I got is pretty ugly. And he goes, No, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for really ugly trunks. Unfortunately, my trunks weren't ugly enough for him. Was an actual statement for him. So. Nice to know that he could do better.
Yeah. But he's a nice guy off the...
Oh, I like him. I love him. A very, very good, solid dude. But what were your impressions of Matt Striker when he came out, Andy?
Tool. Yeah. Absolute. I guess... If
So
you
you
got,
bought
I guess,
it.
yeah,
You bought
when
the
you
whole
enter
character.
I guess, maybe you guys wrestle and you guys... When you enter the wrestling world, you have to create your persona. Of course, there's going to be the people that people love, but there's also some people make the conscious decision, I'm going to be a wrestler that people don't like. And I think for wrestlers that people don't like, it was a very odd choice of, I'm just going to be an absolute douche. Like in a preppy teacher-style douche. I want to make sure no one likes me for the weirdest reason. I haven't seen a wrestler like that. I've seen wrestlers that...
Obviously, you haven't seen me wrestle before.
Yeah. I'm sorry I missed your title match, man.
Well, there I'm a good guy. Everywhere else, I'm a douche like this. Like, I was watching Matt Striker, I'm like, oh yeah, no wonder why I would never get a job in 06. Like, they basically have a teacher version of me, so what's the point? Like, but what more else can you say about Matt Striker, Andy?
Let's talk about the rules a little bit, because Matt Striker, I guess... first off, it's wrestling, and... What you're doing is totally off the wall. Why do you have to create these special... Okay, let's go down to... No eye gouging. No pulling of the hair. No moves off the rope. No foul language. It's like...
What's left?
What? Are we having like a slap fight? Fighting like grandma? I mean, like... Everything that makes wrestling fun is just... I guess it's that Janter is kind of too, and also we'll talk about later in the match. He breaks about every single rule that he talks about. But I'm still trying to learn more about like the setting and everything. What can you tell me more? I'm here to learn as much as you're. I'm here to try to get back.
Basically, he's just trying to get people angry because ECW is known as a very hardcore style of wrestling, and that's I think when people
comes off as hardcore. Oh my god!
Well, that's the point. Is the idea of like to incite that emotion out of you, and then of course you bring out somebody like Balls Mahoney, who's known for like hitting people over the head with steel chairs.
Yeah,
and not only just like hitting them, like he would get mad at guys if they put their hands up. Like, this is like pre-understanding concussions, pre-understanding CTE, and guys would not get booked again if they put their hands up to protect themselves. You had to put your hands down by your side and Balls would swing a steel chair as hard as he possibly could overhead on top of your head. And you just had to take it or else you'd never get booked again. Now, fans would even be like, yeah, that pussy put his hands up. Now, fans and message board people and Twitter people will fucking scream at people for not putting their hands up. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen before in my entire life. But, like... Yeah, like that's what
a politically correct nation is moving in.
That's Balls Mahoney's reputation of being that hardcore of individual, and then of course you have somebody who's like, oh, you can't eye gouge.
And now the match is beginning to make a little bit more sense.
So it's those two different styles of people, and of course Matt Striker being very good at making people look good. Balls obviously definitely not so much in his prime anymore. This is probably 10 years past his time, but still can go at a pretty decent level. Stuff like that can make a match happen, especially on national television. I feel like and can be confused for Zane Rowley from time to time.
Well, not now, and now he's dead. But I mean, previously, yeah, it really did. It totally happened.
Totally happened.
And I love it. Yeah, one of the rules, the no pulling of the hair, says by a guy who has like the shortest clean cut. Like, what hair is he supposed to pull? Why is that rule? And then he ends up pulling Balls' hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of. Well, that's the whole
With
thing.
the geniusness of the situation.
Yeah, exactly. But that's also the thing too, is that it's make you pissed off. Why is he pulling his hair? Like they pulled the emotion out of you that they wanted. So obviously Matt Striker's doing the right thing. Also doing the right thing by putting his own face on his trunks.
How awesome is that?
Not as awesome as Joey Styles going, what kind of man wants to sit on his own face?
Every fucking man.
It just makes me sad. I'm a comedian. I'm never going to say anything nearly that funny.
This guy didn't mean to say it.
Just tripped up Taz, too. And also, too, like Matt Striker's trunks, probably could have used another inch on the hip height. I've made that mistake before on trunks. Like, when I send my measurements in, I'm like, yeah, maybe another half inch on, like, the hip height of these trunks. Probably would be showing a little less butt cheek.
Yeah, a little less butt cheek.
He was right on the edge there of maybe a little too much butt cheek showing.
And then once again, the primarily of this audience is these white men. Who is this for? Who is he trying to impress?
Matt Striker? Nobody.
Trying to turn everyone off.
Yes. Yeah,
and it worked. It worked so hard.
I really wanted Balls for this.
But yes, actually, this was the match where there was a shot of me about 39 minutes and 6 seconds, if you want to look it up.
I will want to go home.
So there's me and a certain individual that used to be my roommate here, sitting next to each other. He may be wanted by certain officials, so be on the lookout. Anyways, I kind of like this match. It was what it was.
I love this match a lot.
Yeah, and there's certain stuff in it I'm probably going to steal.
Of course.
Just let you know.
Of course. Like all of them.
Yeah. Like all of them. But, I mean, for a second match, just kind of put it out there, just kind of like, hey, here we go. We got a guy that's kind of making another guy look good. I think it's all right. You didn't like Matt Striker. You kind of got behind balls a little bit.
And anytime you get 4,800 people in an auditorium just shouting, balls, 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 that's enough enjoyment as it is.
It writes itself.
Mm-hmm. All right. But anything more we have to say about this match?
No.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Feeling pretty good about this pay-per-view.
Yeah. At this point, like, only thing that's really, like, why are we doing this at this point was just Taz just being an awful commentator.
Being Taz.
But then the rest comes.
Yes.
Then we get there.
Floodgates coming.
Yeah, it didn't necessarily apply to this one, but I always notice, like, in most wrestling things I've seen, you always have, like, an ex-wrestler and then, like, the scrawniest white guy who's like, why is he there? So it looks like he would never be thrown into it. You have, like, a guy that looks like he just came out of the ring versus, like, some fanboy.
Yeah.
Anyways, we get a shot of CM Punk warming up early for UFC 202.
203.
Oh, is it 203?
Yeah, he's 203.
Okay, I thought it was 202.
No,
I stand corrected. He's warming up early for 203.
Yep. About 10 years early.
But 10 years early, getting the kicks and the forearms. We're good to go. Then we go get a shot of Sabu. I don't think they ever, what happened to Sabu? What happened to Sabu?
There was no payoff.
There was no, situation, did he get jumped? Because, let's be honest, Sabu might have took some...
Could have just fallen down.
Could have just fallen down. You maybe took an over amount of a dosage of something.
I'm gonna specify.
Overdose of steroids.
Sure.
See,
That might be the nicest thing.
Nice to say. Nobody's like, what happened to Sabu? Like everybody's supposed to assume that he got attacked. I'd like to assume that maybe he did this of his own volition or bad choices. Yeah. So,
but I
don't know if it's foreshadowing. I don't want to jump too far ahead to the next Sabu thing, but I remember hearing the EMT said his neck got broke.
Yeah. Which this EMT...
That's very suspicious.
Not good with the grammar. His neck got broke.
His neck got...
Well, that got broke.
This is Augusta, Georgia, folks. Like, let's remember where this pay-per-view takes place.
I don't want to put my life in anyone's hands there.
Yeah, like, this is one of those things where, like, if there was a NASCAR race going on in Augusta, Georgia, they would get him just stable enough and then airlift him to Indianapolis, Indiana, where they have the best, like, automobile trauma center in the world. Like, he would not be sticking around Augusta, Georgia.
Though I do appreciate and respect the fact that whatever happened to Sabu, they were nice enough to do it under the one light that says this entire dark-ass area. He's nice enough to fall into the one spotlight in the area, so everybody can see.
The most well-lit area.
So conveniently enough, there was that one spot.
So if he was attacked, he would have seen his assailant coming a mile away.
Yes.
Of course. Anyways, moving on to match number 3, Elijah Burke and Sylvester Turkai taking on the FBI.
Full-blooded Italians. I was like to call them the Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah. Now, this match would have been completely different if it was like Tracy Smothers and Tommy Rich, full-blooded Italians.
Well,
but I digress.
See, here's the thing, and there's a prime example of WWE not understanding ECW. The whole joke of the FBIs, like the full first incarnation of the FBIs, or anybody coming out and saying they were full-blooded Italian in ECW back in the early 90s, was JT Smith, who was an African-American gentleman who came out to Gotta Fly Now from the Rocky soundtrack and come out and start going, hey, Paisan! And, like, keep in mind, early 90s Philadelphia, still pretty racist.
Yeah,
you know, probably pretty mad that Randall Cunningham is their quarterback. Probably thinks he's not smart enough to do it because there are, believe it or not, there are some racists in Philadelphia.
No.
Not going to say it's quite as bad as Boston, but but I would say in Philadelphia, not good people there.
Shitty place.
Listen, we've said it before on this podcast before. We'll just double down on it.
Philadelphia.
But anyways, it was anyway to get people excited. But it was a very entertaining gimmick. Like JT Smith was great, and the legend has it, Paul Heyman, like in the midst of having people like Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko and Raven versus Dreamer, like Paul would always make time. The one thing he would always make time for an ECW show is sitting down and watch JT Smith get on the microphone and do his full-blooded Italian gimmick and sing Frank Sinatra. Just to the incited anger of people in South Philadelphia. And then, of course, Little Guido came around. So he was obviously an Italian, but he'd always be trying to tell Little Guido how to be Italian, so that was part of the deal. And then along comes Tracy Smothers, who definitely is not Italian.
Like, don't let that name fool you.
Yeah, like been very much like Southern boy.
How many people were in the fall? Because I looked it up and like there's a range of 4 or 5.
There's a whole
gang
of characters. Like, and then of
so
course
I had trouble trying to figure out which ones are actually funny. It was Guido and Tony Mamaluke.
Yeah, Tony Mamaluke was one of the later ones, but then of course there was Tracy Smothers from Nashville, Italy. Yeah, and then of course Tommy Rich. I think he was like the big Don Tommy Rich. Yeah. And then of course they had some.
He's all like this too, man.
Yeah, like, and he was big Southern, like Georgia guy. He was like, I'm Italian, like the furthest thing from an Italian guy whatsoever. And then of course there was Big Sal and Primo Canera, and then of course you got the Tony Mamaluke. But I find it funny; it just explains how they didn't really get the joke. Like, it probably would have suited them to put somebody in who's not Italian, because this might be the only time ever that the full-blooded Italians consisted of all Italians.
Full-blooded Italians.
Yeah, there were no Japanese people in it this time.
Like, see, that would have worked, because it just would have been like, oh, why would or just like that. They didn't get the joke of putting in a non-Italian person, or even like if they had just like a non-Italian manager, like Trinity, clearly Italian. I don't know if she is or not, but she definitely looks it.
She sure. Hey.
How about that outfit?
Oh, Jesus!
I know, right?
Making kids men that day.
Yeah. But anyways, a little more information about Sylvester Terkay. NC State grad, finished second in the NCAA Wrestling Championships to Kurt Angle, no less.
Wow.
Also performed in K1 and a pretty legit guy. And as we see in this match, it's all built around making him look good.
Oh.
The whole thing, everybody, it all revolves around making Sylvester Terkay look like a killer and a monster.
He was fucking awful. I'll say it.
And Elijah was almost like the comic relief to everything that Terkay was doing.
Which was all of Elijah Burke's career in the WWE ECW.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is just to make Sylvester Terkay look good. It's like, which is the complete opposite of what ECW was built on. ECW was built on these misfits, taking these guys that didn't have a place, that were underappreciated. Like, guys that were pushed aside for like the bigger guy that was going to be the next big thing.
Basically the wrestling version of Flava Flav.
Yeah, like, it's just like, it was just like, you take this big, kind of clunky guy, and he's going to be the star of the show. But, like, it was never like that in ECW. It was like, no, whoever's going to go out there and kill it and have a best match. We're not going to, if you can't keep up, you're fucking out the door. You know what I'm saying? So, like, just the fact that this whole match is just centered around making Sylvester Terkay look like a fucking killer is the complete opposite of what ECW was built on. Like, I think that's the frustrating thing, and that's, I think, why it doesn't sit as well for me. Like, Stryker and Balls Mahoney, that was something that would happen.
Yeah.
Like, Stryker is a very legitimate character that could have been in the ECW arena, that would have been talking shit, and then someone like Balls comes out, like that, something that would have happened. This match right here, never would have happened.
It did kind of seem out of place with everything else that was going on.
It's out of the spirit of what it's supposed to be. And also,
we gotta throw another fucking match in here so it can last the full 2.5 hour time frame.
It's like, we're going to use ECW as an opportunity to get over some of these guys that we don't really know what to do with, and we're just going to surround them with good workers. And it's like the thing, the FBI is like, they're just crash test dummies for them. Mm-hmm. And also, too, like, I also must point out the FBI's entrance. I feel like there was a moment where they were supposed to do a choreographed intro with Trinity, and then they're like, either forgot it or they're like, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Like,
no, fuck her, we're done.
There was like they were supposed to, like, hey, we're not supposed to make her look, like she was supposed to hop on the apron to do something, and then like pulled her down, like, no, don't do that. So I don't know if that was like part of the shtick.
This isn't ECW.
Yeah, or they were trying to, like, no, we're not doing that. Like, I don't know what was going on, but it all came off weird. But they, like, the guys that should have been the good guys and the baby faces, like, it just turned into a squash match.
Yeah.
And
I
think
think
I think there was a moment where Guido was trying to jump off the top rope into Terkay, and Terkay just caught him. It's like, how is he even supposed to compete with this?
Yeah, but that's all part of the story they're trying to tell, is make Terkay look like a monster. We're supposed to get behind, and that's the thing. That's why ECW was so good, because like wrestling was always like, no, this guy will be our monster. This guy will be our star. From like all the people in WCW and WWF, that's how they're just force feeding people into. And WCW came up because like, no. You like what you like, but we're going to put out some of the best wrestlers in the world. We're going to put out guys, and we're going to accentuate their positives, and we're going to show you a different side of this guy who got thrown aside for, we're not going to be force-feeding you guys. We're going to put out the guys you want to see. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it goes against the whole flow of it. But there is a few How Did This Get Booked tropes in it, or at least altercations of it. Elijah wrestling with his hat on for quite some time.
And then Guido put that hat on and doing it as well.
Doing a sweet arm drag with the hat on. Very similar to like wrestlers wrestling with sunglasses on, which is kind of a How Did This Get Booked trope.
Yep. That happens often.
That's how you know you're watching a show that belongs on How Did This Get Booked, is if a wrestler is wrestling with sunglasses on, much longer than they're supposed to, and there's subtle racism.
At all? And not subtle racism.
But anyways, what else can we say about this match?
Thank God it ended.
But when it ended, though, Terkay giving Guido the muscle buster.
Oh, poor Guido.
Oh, you could tell like the sad look on his face. He looks so scared.
I've never seen one done so sloppily.
Yeah, hey, we see this move that Samoa Joe does on TNA.
Yeah.
We should do that. And the thing is, that you can still hear, at least on the DVD version that I had and I watched, you can still hear the chants of TNA when they start using like Jeff Jarrett's finish, who is a big guy, one of the top wrestlers in TNA, and of course Samoa Joe was a big guy in TNA as well at the time in 2006. You could hear the crowd in Augusta going TNA. And another group's using the other group's moves, and they're just calling them out for it, and visibly heard on the after product. They didn't even take that out. So, yeah, Guido looks scared.
As he should.
As he should. Another, Sabu attack. Still don't know if he's OD'd or has been attacked.
This was a segue where they said he was going to with broken neck.
He got his neck broke.
He got neck broke.
This is CM Punk and Rob Van Dam acting like they gave a shit as he got loaded in.
What happened? There's nothing. And they just kind of look offwards into this space. Like,
what? But that's the thing too. And like from what I hear when I read the Wikipedia and the backstory of it is that they were going to take Sabu out of this match, like the creative was, because they felt like he was good for stunt show stuff, but like regular matches were rather lacking. But like the Elimination Chamber is a stunt show.
Oh yeah.
Don't you want to put someone like Sabu in the Elimination Chamber?
And if you want to talk about lacking, why are some of those people in that match?
Moving on to match number 4. Daivari versus Tommy Dreamer. Maybe another theory behind what Sabu was taking off the card is maybe because they're like, hey, Sabu wears this, dashiki turban thing.
Sparkly purple pants.
Yeah, sparkly purple pants. We got Daivari wearing the same exact outfit. Maybe we can only have one guy like that on the card.
We can't have 2 of those guys.
Listen,
we have 2 foreigners.
This was about the time that we're a black female wrestler that I know pretty well was told by WWE like, we can't hire you because we already have a black girl. So like they only fill one minority quotient at a time in 2006 in WWE. So just saying,
4,800 white guys in Georgia. Diversity, huh?
Yeah, we can only put one guy on with the sparkly pants.
They can tolerate one, but
and the headdress we can't have 2.
And then the Great Khali was kind of there on Daivari's
just walking around.
Well, arguably walking, kind of waddling.
Just another big clunky guy that we have to get over, and that's pretty much like this match was a formality to getting Big Khali over at the end.
Yeah.
Once again, another thing.
I love them in The Longest Yard.
I was about to say, you mean actor extraordinaire Great Khali from The Longest Yard?
Mm-hmm. And wasn't he in Get Smart? He was one of the evil henchmen on the evil side.
Yep. Yeah. Yes, he was. Absolutely, but
don't have the speaking styles of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to make it big, but he has his roles.
Was he in MacGruber as well? Because I know a lot of.
Oh yeah, he was one of the intro guys in MacGruber.
That was after his run as a wrestler. I mean, this is right after Longest Yard.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Great Khali. It seems like this match was mere formality just to get Great Khali over. Yeah. Good match though.
Poor Tommy Dreamer. Oh yeah, Daivari and Tommy, awesome.
Yeah, because Daivari is a solid guy, makes guys look good. Tommy Dreamer is all about making guys look good. I really don't have other notes about it, just because anytime when I don't make notes about a match, I mean it's good.
Yeah, it's
kind of puts us back on track, guys.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, then it's like, oh, this match was just to get Great Khali.
Yeah.
So it's like 2 big clunky guys in a row. We're trying to get over on a brand that was built on. Fuck the big clunky guys, that's the frustrating part, and that's what's seeping in, I feel like, in this whole thing. Anyways.
And they were talking about, before the match, that there was, I guess, a previous match between Daivari and Tommy, where Tommy got the win because Daivari interfered.
Yeah.
I'm still learning about this.
Yeah, like I said, there was a little bit of history behind it. That's another thing about this, too, there wasn't a lot of history and build up to any of these matches, so it's not a lot like a stakes to them. It's like we're just gonna throw matches on there. So I think that kind of hurt in the promotion of it. That you're just like these are matches that they could have saw on ECW, the television program.
Okay.
So, but also too, they just kind of launched it. They hadn't built any steam, built momentum. They're just trying to figure out who's where. And
there was a little bit of a story in the final match.
Yeah. So the thing, and that's why they advertise it, because there's a story to it. But everything else, there's really not much of a story to anything, because it just started.
I see exactly.
But when you only advertise in 2 matches and you add one of them, like the Hardy Boy tag match, Hardy Boy M&M tag match, it's very hard for people to plop down that type of money.
Oh yeah.
Especially in December. And especially when WWE had another pay-per-view in December a few weeks later. So, anyways, backstage segment with Hardcore Holly, already in gear, and convenient. It was convenient. Which actually Joey Styles points out later. So he could add a little bit of credibility there. But Paul Heyman puts him back in the Elimination Chamber, and anyways,
one thing to add to the Daivari Tommy Dreamer match is when Daivari won. I don't understand Daivari is just absolutely phased out, and I guess he's about to do his finished move. Pins him. No one expects Daivari to win because he looked like he was out and done. Tommy Dreamer gets absolutely pissed off, so goes to the back to chase him. Runs into Khali, who does a powerbomb to him on steel. On steel.
Just shows how much of a fucking company man Tommy Dreamer is. Just what a fucking company man. Like he's like, all right, it's like, and that's the thing too. Like, I feel like what happened with the tag match before, they're like, an agent probably told him like, hey, we really need to get Sylvester over strong. So like Guido and Mama Luke, like, all right, we'll make him look like $1 million. You know, and at the same time too, like somebody probably said, hey, we really want to do big things with Khali down the road. You know, what can we do? And Tommy's like, well, let's choke slam on the steel. Get a good company man, putting his body on the line, doing what was good for business.
The Tommy man, we salute you.
Yes,
I bet it still hurts to this day, 10 years later.
Oh, yeah. So, but of course, he's taking so many stuff like that, it probably dropping the bucket for Tommy Dreamer.
This still feels like Tempur-Pedic.
Just on the steel? Yeah, I'm in. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. I'm not falling off something that really high other than just him? Yeah, I'm fine.
Let's go. So right
Let's
now.
get it. Not off the balcony? Got it. Match number 5, Kevin Thorne and Ariel versus Mike Knox and Kelly Kelly.
Jesus.
I call her Kelly squared because I just think that's stupid.
Well, I think a little bit of history of Kelly Kelly is that I believe this is correct. John Laurinaitis saw her in some sort of magazine and was like, we should hire her, and she got a job.
Probably one with tits out, I'm not saying.
Yeah, probably one of those.
I guess she didn't do much wrestling prior to that match.
No.
Oh, no. It kind of shows.
This is of the era where they would find models and they're like, hey, we'll just train them to be wrestlers. Or like, hey, we'll take football players and train them to be wrestlers. Like, we're in that era of, like, they look at indie people as second-class citizens, which, of course, we'll get into that with CM Punk, I'm sure. You know, that was part of the stigma. He was the indie guy, so we hate him. And that's pretty much how they felt about
Kelly
him.
doesn't hate him.
No,
Kelly was
she-
watching him go,
She likes him a lot.
Like
enough to piss off Mike Knox.
Liked him so much that she got and like sneaked away to get the microphone and was like, I want to waste CM Punk. You know, good luck in the Elimination Chamber. And then like then when Mike Knox turns around and she turns around, she's like, oh, how'd you hear that? Like, what? Like, what's your end game here, bitch? Like,
It was just beautiful because I've never seen a wrestler get friend zoned before. That was just the ultimate friend zone moment. It was like, what? I thought we were.
But that's the thing, like, he's supposed to be, like, her boyfriend, the overprotective boyfriend, but she's the exhibitionist, like, oh, yeah, I really like CM Punk, you know, like, yeah, I don't fucking get it. Like, what were you thinking? You know what I'm saying? You're gonna live microphone and you didn't think he was gonna find, like, I don't understand who thought that was a good idea to do.
I wish that was the most confusing
He
part
was
of
too
this
much in the
match.
zone of pumping up the fan. She's not going to listen to what
And
she
see,
says.
like, I like Mike Knox. I actually met him in 2003. I did my OVW tryout camp with him.
Oh.
Me and Sojo were the same time, and so he was there, and there's maybe even a couple other people that are on this list. But every time I look at him, I'm like, oh, I remember him being super fucking nice. And now here's his big opportunity on TV.
And this bitch is shitting on him.
Yeah, like, ruining everything.
Just being the dickiest of dicks you can be.
And, like, the thing is, like...
Almost makes Striker look
They
good.
did nothing to, like, endear him to the crowd for anybody to feel... Like, obviously... So we have to, like, make the big clunky guys get them over. We have to get the pretty girl who's a model who's never wrestled before either. That's basically this entire business of this match, is to make Kelly this big baby face. When somebody like Mike Knox, like I said, he'd been wrestling for quite some time. When I met him in 2003, this is in 2006. This is his big time on pay-per-view, and it's all about getting this girl over who they found in a magazine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The complete opposite of what ECW was ever about. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, obviously there's not enough done for them to like Mike Knox at this time.
Yeah.
And they're definitely supposed to dislike Kevin Thorne. It seemed like the only thing that people really liked in this whole match was Ariel's butt being out.
Yeah, that's it.
And like, I had a clear shot of that the whole time. But, like, I remember... But the thing is, I had a clear shot of the whole time, but I still remember being underwhelmed about this whole match.
Yeah.
So, like, I basically saw everything, like, there is to see of Shelly Martinez, and I'm still like, man, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it seemed like they were trying to create a story on the spot where there was no story to be had.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you do that for TV, you don't do that on a paper. Like this is
Yeah.
the exact moment I was.
They're
like,
paying actual money to watch this.
Like this should have been on like a TV episode, and the blow off should have been on the pay per view. And like it was at this moment in time of like, what the fuck am I watching? Like this was the match that really made me mad. Like this was like
almost makes you lose faith in the big match. It's like this is leading up to this big match.
And like I said, I feel bad because there's actual people in this match who I actually like as human beings, and like obviously people that deserve better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, like I said, like no Shelly Martinez. You know what I'm saying? This is her big match on TV. Pay per view. Her big push right here. Mike Knox, great guy. This is his big opportunity. Kevin Thorne had been around in developmental forever and been up and been down. Kind of in the Glenn Jacobs syndrome. They brought him up, gave him a shitty gimmick, brought him back down. Bring him up, shitty gimmick, back down. And this is the only thing that seemed like it kind of stuck for a while.
Yeah, I love Kevin Thorne.
I haven't met him too much personally, so I can't comment on his personality.
No, like the character. I hear he's a big dick every other way.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why. But at the same time too, he put in the work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'd be a big dick too if I kept having a shitty career because they couldn't book me right.
Yeah, and also the thing is, the whole reason he's a vampire gimmick, if you remember, is because ECW was on the Sci-Fi Network, and the Sci-Fi Network made this edict like we want some more sci-fi characters on ECW. And that's why like the first episode of ECW had the zombie, which that guy, made some money on that on the convention circuit. Good for him. But that's why Kevin Thorne was a vampire, because on the Sci-Fi Network. That's why he got this gimmick, and that's why it exists. So
if you fill the role, get those checks.
Get money.
But yeah, even single Jake Manning, who was homeless at the time and still seeing Shelly Martinez's rear end the whole time, just this match did nothing for me. Yeah. So. Then or now. Now I'm wonderfully in a committed relationship and have a home, and I still don't care about this match.
Still don't care. Still wish Mike Knox had better.
Not the huge wrestling of mine. My favorite part of the match is when Sandman entered and just started bashing the beer can against his forehead.
You know what though? Sandman, this is the best way to use Sandman.
Yeah.
This is the perfect example. They hired him, you don't know how he's going to fit in WWE. No, you just do stuff like this with him all the time to just make things a little bit better. He's used properly. So what are your thoughts when you saw the Sandman?
I didn't understand the story. I mean, okay, to set it up, basically, Mike Knox left Kelly to dry, to get beaten up. He just totally walks off. No one knows where he is. Kelly gets pinned. I guess the Sandman trying to like Kelly in a way, or trying to say, or is he just a crazy motherfucker who's just like, I see opportunity where I can start some shit. Let's go.
Yeah, that's it.
So Kelly's no part of what Sandman is. Sandman is just a crazy person. Oh, there's a woman here.
My friend, the ladder.
Because I'm not sure if it occurred before this or right after this. Kelly's next love interest, Balls Mahoney.
Yes, this is correct.
Who can love a man like Balls?
Who would love Balls?
Yeah, exactly.
I remember writing down, it's really...
She should have a t-shirt that says, I love balls.
Kelly
squared. Kelly squared.
I wrote down, this match is fucked when Sandman is the saving grace.
Yeah. But Sandman doing what he does best.
But Sandman doing Sandman.
Yeah. And I love... When Sandman, I've never noticed this about Sandman. Maybe because he got this tattoo a little bit later than the ECW days, but he raised his arm up. He has a tattoo of himself, of his face, next to his face.
Yeah.
And it's not upside down when he raises his arm up. No, you only see it correctly when he raises his arm up.
Yeah, I would look like I got two hands.
He saw Steve-O and thought, that's a good idea.
Except I want it closer.
Yeah. But also, I just love Sandman's entrance. That just somewhere in the crowd. He didn't come down the ramp. There was no really big thing he just appeared out of nowhere in the audience, and he was with the people. I think that's a great thing where you get to really get the fans involved. He's just right there. You're sitting right next to somebody smashing a beer can. I think that's really cool.
That's what Sandman does best, and they put him on the show and they utilized him best.
The one thing they utilized from ECW properly.
Exactly.
Yes.
They at least understood what Sandman was about.
Yes.
Yeah. So Anyways, Bobby Lashley interview with the Rebecca girl who's got just the most awful voice. Just sweet girl, probably. Another girl they found in a magazine. Found out she really can't wrestle. So that's the thing, is like, if
I wanted to be a news anchor, but this happened to turn out just fine.
I was just taking pictures for Hawaiian Tropic, and now they said I could be a wrestler, but I'm not very good at that. But Kelly's really doing a good job. Like,
I really look up to her. When I was a Fanta girl, this is all I wanted to be.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for. I can't. I have no place for it.
Yeah.
I have no time or place in my heart for anybody that doesn't love wrestling that does it at that level. So
Of course, if you're a model that's getting ready to become a WWE diva, you're not listening to our fucking podcast anyway.
Yeah.
So fuck you.
Yeah, you're on a boat with Dan Blanzini right now or something like that. Well, maybe not anymore, but you would have been back then. Anyways, the big promo video for the main event. Andy, after seeing this promo video, are you excited to see the main event?
Of course I am.
Okay.
Anything where there's a barbed wire baseball bat, I'm thinking, this is going to be interesting. I wonder how this is going to be utilized. I was a little disappointed in how it was utilized. I didn't really use it to the effect. Well, I understand you can't really do what you want to with it because they have to be alive at the end of the match.
They did the best they could.
Yeah, they could. But yeah, talking about the Bobby Lashley interview, the Bobby Lashley interview kind of set up how I thought the match was going to go because I had to learn a little bit of backstory, I guess. He was doing the match previously with the Big Show, and then Bobby Lashley was about to win, and I guess Paul Heyman, who is, I guess, the Big Show fanatic and wants Big Show to be the guy of ECW, didn't like that, so I guess they kind of sabotaged him, and so that interview kind of set up okay, this is the backstory, this is probably what I'm going to expect in the Chamber match.
Yeah. But anyways, what were your thoughts on seeing Elimination Chamber?
That's all, yeah, and also, like, with the promos and everything going up, you could start to see, because you start to see the alliances being built, like, I guess, it was the Big Show and Tess were obviously together to try to get against Bobby Lashley. I think the one guy that really just had no place in it was CM Punk, I felt like. It was just, like, some random guy. But I think I saw, maybe I could be absolutely wrong. And please stop me if I'm absolutely wrong.
What are your thoughts on CM Punk? You just say he's kind of a random guy, but like you're a common fan. Like here's why you're on the podcast. Okay, it's because I want your opinion. Because there are a lot of things that the upper echelon people of WWE and producers, they say a lot of things like, oh, we do things this way because it captures a larger audience, and someone like this doesn't capture a larger audience. When you see a CM Punk, what are your thoughts about him? You see him as a star. You say he's just a random guy, but what are your thoughts on him just overall as a character or somebody you would watch?
I would enjoy watching him. I just didn't feel like how he fit into the match, I suppose.
So you don't feel like he fits in the main event. And that's your opinion, and that's
Yeah.
okay, and that's fine. And that's what a lot of people in WWE said. Because Paul Heyman, real life backstage, really wanted CM Punk to win this match. That's who he really wanted to win this match.
Huh.
Actually, Big Show was all for it because he's like, this creates a new star. The fans really want it because, like I said, CM Punk, an indie darling. And, and I see that you feel like, oh, he's just a regular guy.
Yeah.
But, there's something about CM Punk, and I don't know if you have to see him live or if it was the fact that he wrestled so many places in the indies and people saw him live. I saw him wrestle at, a Masonic temple in Iowa. And I saw him come out just like a shitty curtain, like a fucking entrance that Ian Rotten had that was real awful. And I remember seeing him come out, and when you see him come out just in front of 80 people, you're like, no, that guy's a star. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if because you see it live or you feel it live or you get a sense of charisma that you have to feel it in person.
And also, it probably also takes. I didn't really hear much of. I didn't have no idea who CM Punk was before you told me to, and before I watched this match. And you didn't really have. I didn't really find out much of a backstory on CM Punk. Maybe if I knew more of his backstory.
See, you're the common fan. Your opinion matters. You know what I'm saying? Because your opinion is how you see it. If you're a fan of WWE and or if you're a non-fan and you just bought this pay-per-view randomly because you wanted to see what is this Elimination Chamber about, it's your idea of what you thought. So obviously, there's some validity to those people who are like, no, the Bobby Lashley's the true star here. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, too, they're programming you to go this way. And the more I think about this match and the more I watched it, I kept thinking there was that sense of like, oh, this person got through all this and then, got to Big Show, and then where Big Show was the end, and that's happened with Bobby Lashley. And then I started thinking, like, gosh, what would it have been like if they let CM Punk start and they get all the way to the end and he has to go against Big Show? What if that was the story? And they go, gosh, he'd be made like a star. He would look like a star at the end.
Oh, yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And I felt like if they did it like that, I'm like, you could have got a big bang for your buck out of this. But, like...
Because you basically feel the two people who start the match are pretty much screwed.
Exactly. And so, like...
Yeah. They don't even start off anything to start with. They just basically have their bare hands, and all of a sudden you got someone coming out with a table, someone coming out with a chair with a crowbar.
Yeah.
And he has to win this by stealing other... Obviously, you have to steal other people's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is, like... Just they thought if like CM Punk was like with the third guy in and they did it and he ended up being the last guy as opposed to Bobby Lashley, just makes you think like, gosh, he would have been made as a star that night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what they originally wanted to do, but they went with Bobby Lashley. And like, I know Paul made that decision because he wanted to do this brand of ECW is make stars. Yeah. Now Bobby Lashley, you see him, he oozes. B-Lash, our buddy.
Yeah. My best friend.
Love him. Yeah. He should be going after the SmackDown Championship at this time. He should be going for the Raw Championship. Yeah. Like, he should be going for the U.S. belt. You know what I'm saying? To put him in ECW, like, it doesn't really fit. It goes against the whole thing. Like, he's megastar. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't put him in the island of misfit toys. He's the guy that you put the rocket ship on. Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt like WWE's like, oh, we're going to use this as a lower level and see how he does. And then if he handled this well, we'll put him on our main show. And they kind of saw it as that. But like that's something that would have worked for NXT if it existed. I mean, look what Big E, like he was NXT champion for a while, and then he gets on Raw and he's a big deal. You know what I'm saying? And that works. And I think they wanted to do that with Bobby Lashley, but didn't realize this is ECW, and you're trying to scoop up and like coax these hardcore fans into buying and believing and getting behind Bobby Lashley. And I feel like
they just set up the perfect revenge story for him, like they said in the promos, and everyone loves a good revenge story.
Yeah, and like I say, I feel like that's the most of people's objection to this match because, in all honesty, it's a good match.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's nothing wrong with it.
No, I didn't write anything down for it. I mean, it was long as fuck. Yeah. I was horrified.
They advertise it's the one thing to advertise. So
I was horrified because when the promo started to set up this match, there were 45 minutes left. Yeah. And I was terrified this was going to be like a 40-minute match.
Well, you got to do entrances for a
while. But then luckily, as it broke down, 25 minutes. And that's with all the 5-minute segues in between. Yeah. And they wrapped it up real fast to go home, which I loved. Yeah. But I was mortified. I was going to have to see 40 minutes of a cage.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I knew Paul Heyman would have to come down, and then they have to do all the entrances and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, like...
You have the speech by Paul Heyman before.
Yeah. And, like, that the first two guys in there, Holly and Rob Van Dam, bumping on the steel, even though they have a perfectly good ring over here. Yeah. You can just bump
literally inches away.
Yeah, literally inches away, but nope, just bumping on steel, working hard, all of them. Like, nothing I really say about this match, but, like... I see why people are so mad and so upset about this. And I remember the live crowd really wanting to see Punk win. Like, I felt it. And when he was eliminated, it was a whole... sense of, like, oh, fuck this match. And it's like... And then, like, there were people that left, but most people stuck around just to see who are you going to...
They have the CGI people into the stand for the big...
just like...
the big finale.
It's almost like, okay, who's going to win the belt? Because obviously Big Show's not retaining. Because at this moment in time, like, Big Show is hurting really bad physically. I remember when I did Extra Talent Spot the next day, I remember him leaning over a cart because his back hurt him so bad because he was carrying too much weight at the time. He came back leaner and thinner and in better shape a few months later.
Yeah, one disconnect that kind of happened during the main match because, of course, you got the 4 guys in their pod chambers. And then by the time the last 2 people come out were Bobby Lashley and the Big Show. Bobby Lashley, of course, came out first, and then Big Show was the final guy who came out. When Bobby Lashley's turn, I guess they disrupted everything. They were going to keep him in the cage, so I guess he couldn't participate. Just gets the table and just busts out of it.
Yeah, like a wood table broke chains?
Yeah.
Like... That's not possible. Is it?
That was like a Harry Houdini setup for those chains. It's like, all I gotta do, poke, poke.
In the paper, rock, scissors of the world, this does not.
I would have bought it more I would have liked it more if he just ripped it off with his bare hands.
Yeah. Or if he just, like, shoulder checked the fucking pod long enough and just busted it out.
Yeah, like...
Because they busted into it later.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. When it was the Big Show and Bobby Lashley, Bobby Lashley just pushes Big Show into a chamber, breaks one of the chamber, Big Show just gets out the other side, boom. What's stopping Big Show just coming to the fight in the first place?
Did that happen at a different Elimination Chamber where... It would have been like Brock Lesnar or
It popped when it wasn't supposed to?
Punched through the deal.
When they weren't supposed to?
No,
they've definitely broken through several times before. I think even like, it might have been, I don't know why I said there was one with Rhino, or there's somebody that did a spear. It might have been a Batista that, did a spear through, because everybody was doing fucking spears. It might have been an Edge.
You mean like Bobby Lashley here
for the finish? But what else are you going to do, Big Show?
Yeah.
Especially like Big Show was like, I remember seeing him the next day after this, and like he just looked not in good shape. Like he's just gimping his way through the end of this. So like he took some well-deserved time off, got healed, got better. I remember him coming back. He had a smile on his face. So but I remember him the whole day after this. He was just like he needed some time off. Like his grumpiness and anger came off very well on camera. But yeah, I feel like that's the big thing. Like everybody really wanted Punk to win, and I feel like. Just by all the TV and all the stuff that you saw with all the angles, it was basically set up for Bobby Lashley to win. Like, this is Bobby Lashley's match where he gets the belt. But like I said, when you're trying to scoop up old hardcore ECW fans and then do the complete opposite of what this whole pay-per-view, what ECW was about, I can see why people were mad. I can see why people don't like this. And when you only advertise 2 matches... But at the same time, too, they didn't have a lot of time to promote and get people to care about some of the other matches, And so you just got to do the best you could. I think, Tommy Dreamer had a hand in putting this show together, and Paul Heyman had this together. And I think that's the frustration of it. There was a lot of heat put on Paul because of putting together this show. I'm like, I guess ECW isn't the hot thing anymore. And that's disheartening because it was almost set up to fail. And I think that's the saddest.
So I'm assuming it's not still around today.
No. And thankfully so. I wouldn't want to see it carry on.
Because a lot of the guys that would have still been in ECW then are not in a state to carry on that type of schedule.
But the thing is, too, what they were trying to do with ECW is exactly what they're doing with NXT right now. Just starting over from the ground up and letting people know, the only niche to it is hey, these guys are going to be the future stars of tomorrow. Which is where I feel like with ECW, they're only half doing that. We're going to give some guys some opportunities like your Matt Strikers. Opportunities to come through. Your Elijah Burks. We're going to put guys like that on ECW and build them as stars. Bobby Lashley, build them as stars, But we're also going to sprinkle in some of these old guys that you like, these stalwart names of ECW. We're going to sprinkle them in, So it was kind of not enough ECW and not enough NXT to even work. And I feel like that's the thing. What they wanted with ECW is exactly what they had with NXT right now. So obviously,
Island of Misfit Toys.
It took 10 years for them to figure out the formula. Yeah, but they've got it now. But they were trying, and they didn't have all the recipe. They didn't have the ingredients. Nope. They got the wrong recipe. But anything else we could say about this pay-per-view?
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I don't think it's a bad show.
Yeah.
I just feel I think the thing is when you use those letters ECW is especially hot off the one night stand pay-per-views. I should give you a copy of those because the one night stand pay-per-views were unbelievable. They were incredible and they were very nostalgic in a sense too, and they were a completely different program compared to what.
Yeah, this is probably the first full wrestling thing that I have watched in over 10-15 years. So you could probably show me one of those and I'll go back and look, this Dismember, that was a piece of shit compared to this. This is unbelievable. But
you've got, but you look at the guys that are on it. You know what I'm saying? You got people like Tommy Dreamer on it. You got the Hardy Boys. You got Eminem, Bobby Lashley, Rob Van Dam, CM Punk. Just listing off guys like that. I'm like, that's a solid card. Any program. But like I said, I feel like I think the big thing is people felt like their emotions got tricked. And I think, as a show looking back on it, it's not a bad show. But I feel like at the time and then the culture and the climate And the fact that you only advertised 2 matches, I think that's why this is looked upon as one of the worst of all time.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of redemption.
You should at least promote every single match in some shape or form.
Yeah.
But
at least like, hey, at least we're gonna have this, or at least we're gonna have this. But at the same time too, I felt like they probably felt like, ooh, like they maybe like feel like this is an episode of ECW.
Maybe we shouldn't put this out there.
Yeah. So, but anyways, anything else we gotta say about this, guys?
It happened.
I definitely agree it happened.
He was there. He can prove it.
I was there. I'm definitely going to tweet out the screen cap. But
they're going to be a truthers. It never happened.
very, very ho-hum. Just very,
Meh.
Yeah, it was a good show. Yeah. That's all I can really say.
It happened.
Anyways, before we get out of here, Andy, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so kindly for having me.
You have a live microphone in front of you. If there's anything you want to plug, this is literally going to go up tomorrow. So if there's anything you want to plug individually, this is the time to do it.
Oh, well, I guess the one thing I'm really happy about, in 2 weeks at the station off Central Avenue, I'll be headlining the Nick Alexander show. Great comedian. I'm sure he's been on this before.
Yes, he has.
Yes, we love Nick Alexander. And he is giving me 30 minutes of my time to entertain people. So please come out to that show. It's like a really big deal that I'm going up there. I'm doing 30 minutes. So if you can make it out, that would be phenomenal.
Monstrous Comedy at the station. What was the date again?
This August 15th.
August 15th here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Station in Plaza Midwood for information. Zane, what do you got coming up?
Friday night, APW Chester, South Carolina. Saturday, Rose Hill, North Carolina. And Sunday, I'll probably just be getting drunk at the Mid-Atlantic Fan Festival in Charlotte, North Carolina.
That's right, buddy.
Yeah,
That's right,
I ride my bike there and everything.
Ooh, you just sold me on an idea that I might do.
Yeah.
You have a much longer bike ride than I do.
Whole lot of bus and train. Plane, train, automobile, and bike.
Yeah, I feel so puny right now.
And they don't have the very soon, that won't be too bad because you're going to be able to take the train all the way down there.
Bam.
So, anyways, I got stuff coming up, but you can just follow me at ManScoutManning. For all that on Instagram and Twitter. I've got all kinds of stuff. But if you think that we were too easy or too hard on this pay-per-view, make sure that you tweet me at ManScoutManning or email me at jake@sslshow.com. Make sure you visit the website, howdidthisgetbooked.com, where we have t-shirts available. Also, too, the 6-disc set of A Man Scout's Guide to Surviving a Night Under the Stars is available at How This Get Booked, as well as past episodes of the show. So make sure you check that out as well. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and Google Play. Also subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/ManScoutManning and follow on SoundCloud.com/ManScoutManning. Thank you again for joining us for another edition of How Did This Get Booked?